Let me tell you, I was extremely excited to read this book, okay? I saw the trailer, I saw some interviews with the author, and I was like, this is kind of sinister and fascinating, okay? The Shards, Bret Easton Ellis, the author of the famous American Psycho. I was extremely excited because this, and I still don't understand if this is legit or not, but from what I understand, there are bits and pieces in this book that are true, and there is a mixture of fiction and reality. We don't really know what actually is true, what actually is factual in this book, but there is a mishmash, a combination of fact and fiction, okay? Unfortunately, this book, after the first 100 or 200 pages, is just devastatingly dull, repetitive. This book was not what it was advertised as. This book, unfortunately, falls flat on its nose because after the initial hype, things kind of become stale, stagnant, and this is not what I thought this book would be. I thought this book would be about, there's the serial killer, it's probably this guy Robert Mallory, and our protagonist, Bret, has to figure out what's going on, and it's some sort of investigation, and it's sinister, and he barely survives, and it should be full of tension. It should grab you and hold you, and this is not what happens in this book at all. The Shards, although wonderfully written at times, The Shards is boring. Okay, The Shards, even though it has promise, okay, this is not a bad book by any means. It's just kinda lackluster in the end. This is the problem. Okay, instead of the story just being boom, 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 creepy and startling and confusing and what's gonna happen next, it's just a downer, and it keeps on getting lower and lower, and it just becomes a chore to read by the end. By the end, it becomes a chore to read. And let me tell you, as I was reading this book, I didn't really care about Bret Easton Ellis's high school friends, bruh. Like, I was here for him and this Robert Mallory, and he keeps on yapping about his relationships with these people that don't really matter. And it took me a while to be invested in these people, like Susan and Thom and, a couple of others. Like, this was not what this book was supposed to be about. This book was supposed to be focused on who this trawler is and why is he doing the horrible things that he is doing. What the crimes in this book are sinister. I thought because of the introduction of this book, I thought that Bret Easton Ellis was actually stalked and attacked by this serial killer, named the Trawler, and I thought that he barely survived. And it kinda happened, but not really. Okay, it kinda happened, but not really. By the end of this book, I don't care about his little high school friends. They're all bougie, bourgeoisie, they're all rich, and they're all blasé and jaded, and I don't care about. Especially Susan, who is so numb, and she's so expressionless, and I'm just like, come on, bro, let's move. Let's move along, bro. It's not that serious, little bro. It's not that deep, right? They thought, you see, these were 80s kids. They thought that what they were doing and how they looked and where they went, and especially what music and what movies they listened to and watched, they thought that this was extremely serious business. They thought they were cultured. even artists in a way. All right. They thought they were connoisseurs of the arts because they listened to pop music in the 80s. And I was just like, God, Jesus, cringe, absolutely cringe. But there is something that caught my eye, which shows how things have changed over the years, how the generations have switched, how, culture has been turned on its head. Because in this book, Bret Easton Ellis clearly says that he remembers that in the 80s, these people who were teenagers, they were like 14, 15 years old, 13 years old, and they had their own cars, they were going everywhere, their parents were absent all the time, and what they wanted was, they wanted to become adults, they wanted to do adult things, they did not want to be in the house. They wanted to go out there and be out there and mingle with people and do adult things with other adults. And today, being juxtaposed to today, everybody wants to be inside. Everybody wants to be at home, and they want to be comfy, and they want to sit in their pajamas and sweatpants, and they want to play cozy indie games. And they want to play with their Legos, and they don't want to go outside, and they order, fast food on some app, and they don't even have to go outside, it just comes to their doorstep. And people don't want to be adults. They don't want to be mature. They just want to be comfortable and do things that are extremely convenient and stress-free. And this is, let's just say that in a way society has regressed, has degenerated. Everybody just wants to play video games all day long. They want to just watch memes and react to others react to memes, etc., etc., right? So, in a way, this is a sort of juvenile, infantile mindset, in a way. People have been babyfied, okay? Society has regressed in a way. I don't know if it's the worst thing that could have happened, but I mean, it's obvious. The proof is in the pudding, right? In comparison to the 80s when this guy was young, I mean, they just wanted to get the hell out of the house and just go somewhere and do something, right? And I think that's more admirable in a way than just, gooning to VTubers, for example, right? But anyway, back to the story in of itself. There is a problem that I want to discuss, and this is absolutely serious. I'm not making fun of anybody here. This is what I have noticed. Generally, in entertainment, in media, whatever, even in books, gay men are portrayed as being these horny, like they just cannot stop themselves. They cannot control themselves. All they want to do is goon all day long. Right? This is what I have seen how gay men are portrayed in fiction in general. With exceptions, of course. And Bret Easton Ellis is no exception here. Okay? In this book, I don't know, I remember when I was a teenager myself. And let me tell you, I wasn't popping boners 24/7. In this book, Bret Easton Ellis makes it seem like this guy, he had boners 24/7. Popping boners 24/7. He was gooning all the time. Okay? And even after gooning 12 times in an hour, he still somehow manages to become, again. I just, listen, and the details that he describes here as he engages in certain sexual relationships with, the people, consensually, of course. Okay, the first time was all right. The second time was all right. Listen, almost, and I'm not kidding here, almost every page, almost every chapter has insane amounts of details in regards to his sexual activity and how these people look naked, and let me tell you about their organs and their genitalia and their buttholes, and I'm just like, bro, but Bret Easton Ellis, bro, you need to chill, Okay, listen, if I were the editor of this book, The Shards, I would have told Bret Easton Ellis, I would have told, listen, bro, you need to tone it down with all of this, stop trying, stop describing how pink certain buttholes are. I'm being extremely vulgar here, but it's just, this is what happens in this book. And I am not against any sort of sexuality, but this is just, bro, stop. Almost on every page, he has a boner, he is gooning, or he is fantasizing about somebody, or he has some wet dream, or he is actually engaging in sexual activity with somebody, and he just has to describe everything. Okay, and I will not give any more details. But it's just too much, bruh. The first 20 times were enough. And he keeps on going throughout this. Listen, there are moments in this book where this guy, he is subjected to so much stress, or even his life is threatened. Okay? Bret is being put in certain situation where it's high risk, it's tense, it's stressful, or even his life is on the line, maybe, right? He might be subjected to harm. And even in these predicaments, our boy Bret somehow still pops a boner. He has a knife to his throat, and somehow he's thinking, well, this guy's kind of hot though. On me, no cap, bruh. And I'm just like, I don't understand. Okay, right? He was gay when he was gay, right? And in the 80s, it was a bit of a no-no to be gay. So I guess, now he kind of has to detail and describe how it was back then. And, he had to go through hardships because he had to be basically closeted, right? Of course, no problem. But it's just so jarring and polarizing. We have a story about a serial killer who's just snatching people and their pets and doing horrible things to them. He might be stalked himself, and by the end we realize that yes, indeed, he was stalked. I don't know if it was the trawler or these cult people. If this really happened, that's crazy. And yet, with all of this, like this guy was stalked, the people or the trawler, they were in his house. They took pictures of the interior of his house. They killed some of his friends. They attacked some of his friends. And even with this, like by the end, he has a knife fight to the death with this guy, Robert Mallory, who is suspected of being the trawler. And they hop from balcony to balcony, just slicing. And somehow our boy, Bret Easton Ellis, being 15 or 16, fighting for his life on balconies, jumping from balconies, a knife fight, bro. He's still, not only is he popping a boner, bro, but he's thinking, Robert Mallory, he might be the trawler, he might be a serial killer, he might be trying to kill you, but goddamn, this boy hot though, goddamn. And I'm just like, I can't take this book seriously. I can't take this author seriously. I thought that this book would be devastatingly dark. And it's not, though. There are some dark moments here and there, but it's just, it is almost comedic in a sense what the author is doing here. And I dare you to open this book on whatever page you want, and I guarantee you that there might be some sort of, description of some of his, desires. Let's just call it that. And I'm just like, as I was reading all of this, I guess he was frustrated, whatever. I was thinking, as I was reading this, I was just like, bro, just jerk off and move on, bro. You'll be fine. Post-nut clarity should, like, kind of sit you right in a way. And this guy just cannot calm down. Like, he is a professional serial gooner in this book, right? Of course, he's a teenager, but I remember being a teenager myself, and I wasn't to this extreme. I'm just like, it's fine, but I don't want to read about this constantly, all the while. We have a serial killer on the loose, and perhaps we have a cult that somehow might have a connection with the trawler. And I'm just like, and this guy might be stalked. His friends might be stalked. Some of his friends are kidnapped and they are killed. Some of his friends are attacked and they survive. And I'm just like, and all the while we have endless examples of gooning. Endless, all right? And listen, it's fine if you want to write about this stuff. Absolutely. There are no limits in fiction. There are no limits imposed on fiction, but to go to this, like this is from cover to cover, constant gooning, folks. This is unacceptable to me. It's fine to write about it, but bro, I thought that we were dealing with more serious subject matter than gooning, okay? And another thing that really just, I don't know how I should say this, but by the end, something happens. Some sort of plot twist happens. It is a surprise, and I will give Bret Easton Ellis props. Something happens where, by the end, it is kind of revealed or hinted at that our boy Bret Easton Ellis might be the trawler himself, or he just has serial killer tendencies. I don't know exactly what is happening here. Because, his friends Susan and Thom are attacked by allegedly the trawler, and they're getting cut or stabbed, but they survive. But Susan, in the darkness, manages to bite the trawler on the hand. And afterwards, Bret visits Susan at the hospital, and Susan looks at Bret's hand, and he might have a mark on his hand, and Susan just freezes. Susan automatically, instantly makes the connection that, but it isn't said if what she sees are bite marks or just a mark in general. But she is terrified, and Bret kind of freaks out and hurts her some more. So what his reaction to her reaction is a bit peculiar, and it makes him all the more suspicious. And I'm wondering if this really happened back in the day in like 86, or when this happened. I'm just like, okay, something is not right here. Okay, something is not right here. And afterwards, of course, the trawler isn't caught. This bizarre cult isn't caught. Nobody knows who's doing all of this. Allegedly, at least one of his friends, or at least two of his friends, were caught and killed by the trawler. The perpetrator or culprits weren't caught, and things just moved on, huh? Right? Again, I repeat myself, there is truth in this fiction. Some of this stuff actually happened, okay? And here is the problem, that in the end, the first couple of pages, they are mostly some sort of admission or testimony by the author. And he says, okay, it took him 40 years to write this book. In the beginning, this is what he says. He was so stressed that he tried at least 3 or 4 times to write this book, okay, in the 90s, early 2000s, whatever. And the last time he tried to write this book, he got so stressed and filled with anxiety and fear, folks, that he had a heart attack and had to be rushed to the emergency room, okay? Trying to write about what happened in his past gave this man a heart attack in his 60s, and I was just like, okay, this is some we're in. We're locked in. This is serious. And afterwards, I'm like, there is not a single moment in this book where it is proven or even hinted at that Robert Mallory was indeed the trawler. Absolutely no evidence whatsoever. And there is also no evidence that he was connected to this cult. Okay, so Robert Mallory, maybe he had some sort of mental problems and he was in an asylum, blah, blah, blah. But it seems to me that Bret actually killed this guy. You know, he fell from the balcony and that was that. And Bret Easton Ellis kind of got off scot-free, in a way. If we are to believe that this is fiction mixed in with some truth. Okay? And all of his friends that survived, they did not want to do anything with him after that. They didn't want to talk to him. They didn't want to see him. They did not want to be seen with him. So what are we talking about here? Did these things actually happen? Okay, of course, maybe the names are changed, whatever. You know, he had some artistic liberties, whatever. Okay, but it's just, did this actually happen? Something. You know what is the feeling that I get from this book is just something ain't right. Something ain't right, bruh. With this book, if it really happened to a certain extent, something ain't right here. Okay? By the end, we are kinda-ish led to believe that Bret Easton Ellis, he's kind of a suspect. He's kind of suspicious. Okay? This is what the book says in the end. He's kind of suspicious, and he kind of gets off scot-free. You know? I don't know. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Okay? But here is the problem, though. Here is the problem. Okay? Because I watched interviews, podcasts, I watched the trailer for this book, and I listened to the author, and he even now seems kind of shook by what happened in this book. If you listen to him talk about this, he's still shook. Okay? And in some of these interviews, he says indeed that this is kind of fiction mixed in with some truth. Some of this actually happened because even after 40 years, he was extremely fearful and scared and anxious to write this book. And he had to be rushed to the hospital because he suffered some sort of crisis. Okay? But this is what I don't like. Okay? Even after all of this, this is what it is written at the end of the book. This is entirely a work of fiction. And I'm just like, bruh, what are you doing here, bruh? What are you doing here, bruh? Excuse me, excuse you. After all of this, after all of the juicy details, huh? You're telling me this is entirely a work of fiction. Characters, events, and incidents are the products of the author's imagination. Except for the author himself, any resemblance to persons living or dead is mostly coincidental and not real. And I'm just like, bro, stop the cap. You know what I say to Bret Easton Ellis? Stop the cap. Okay? This is not a work of fiction because in the beginning of this book, this guy is peeing his pants telling us how he struggled after the events that occurred in the 80s to him. 40 years later, this man was still shaking in his boots because the trawler wasn't caught. Okay? The beginning, the first couple of pages, they are a confession, an admission, a testimony from a man in his 60s. Right? Just shaking in his boots, taking medication. He can't handle this stuff. And at the end of this book, where he is kind of pointed at as being suspicious, he has the audacity to say, this is a work entirely of fiction. I'm just like, bro, stop the cap. What is this? What is this? What is this hypocrisy? What is this contradiction? Either it is this or this. You cannot say at the beginning that some of this stuff happened and at the end conclude with, well, all of this is fiction, folks. See you later. Like, huh? Hey, yo, huh? Okay. By and large, this book was extremely disappointing. There are bits and pieces that are extremely well written. Some of the passages that are well written, they are exactly what you expect from the author of American Psycho, okay? But overall, it is a bit dull. It is a bit boring and repetitive. I don't care to find out what sort of pop songs they were listening to. Of course, the relationships that he had with his friends were completely irrelevant. All of them collapsed and disappeared. Complete nonsense, not important, not interesting. Of course, everybody was on drugs, everybody was numb, emotionless, expressionless. They were dead on the inside and they were just teenagers. Classic Bret Easton Ellis stuff. But this sort of stuff I've read in, Less Than Zero, in Imperial Bedrooms, etc., etc. Okay? There is nothing extraordinary about this book. I was misled. My expectations just crumbled. I was disappointed, okay? And I will say this as an ending for this video. I haven't read all of his books, okay? But to me, American Psycho is his masterpiece. Everything else that I've read, they are kinda mid or a bit above average, okay? And if you know more about the background and history of this fictitious novel, just if you've done more research, please tell me in the comments section, because to me this is unacceptable. Either it has some truth in it or it is fiction. You can't just say one thing at the beginning and just end it with another statement contradicting the first statement, okay? Even though it is kind of promised that Robert Mallory is gonna be the sort of Dexter Morgan of this novel, he's barely there. He is a cardboard cutout. There's nothing really to him. There's nothing really to his friends. Nothing really happens. It is just kind of the sad, monotonous life of a sad, monotonous person, just living, in banality. But it's this sort of boredom and banality were afforded because he was born in a well-off family, just like all of his classmates. Okay? This book should have been something completely different. Again, the first couple of chapters or pages or whatever, Robert Mallory is kind of hinted at being this this guy, bro. You're gonna see, this is gonna be a young Hannibal Lecter. This guy is, just you wait. And as you read along, it isn't so. It is just so mediocre. He's just a handsome guy. He's just a handsome guy, and he might have some mental problems. That's it. See you later. And he might be the trawler, but probably not. And all of these things might be because of that cult or whatever. But everybody is so blasé, so jaded, so bored and unimpressed and uninterested and so ignorant that they don't really care that all of these people are being killed around them, because they're all so self-centered and so self-absorbed that I'm just like, ugh. And in conclusion, this is not a novel that I will ever read again, because it made a lot of promises and it did not fulfill anything, and it did not hold or uphold its part of the bargain. But that's about it. If you enjoy this content, if you want to support your boy, I got a few books on Amazon. The link will be down below. If the link does not work, you can search my name, Griffith Samsara. Thanks for watching. Keep on reading good books. See ya.